Hello everyone, and welcome to the Tome of Silver, the show where I randomly select a game from my collection, review it, and add it to an ever-growing ranking list. As an avid collector of PlayStation Vita games, I've played my fair share of dungeon crawlers. The Vita is no stranger to the genre, and there are a fair few quality titles like Dungeon Travelers 2 and Stranger of Sword City, yet none have struck a chord with me quite like Mary Skelter Nightmares. Developer Compile Heart's character designs, set in a twisted and macabre world, form a fascinating combination, and I immediately wanted to know more the second I saw it. Physical copies were rare at the time I first discovered the game, and it took a long search before I found one at a price that wouldn't financially ruin me. However, my patience was well worth it, as what I received became my favorite dungeon crawler I have ever played. Enter the living jail, harness the power of the Blood Maidens, and let's turn the page to Mary Skelter Nightmares. One day, on an unknown date, a massive crater appeared without warning in an unnamed city in Japan. That city was swallowed by the crater, disappearing beneath the earth, isolated from the outside world. Within that crater, the people of the city were captured by demonic creatures known as merchants and brought to the jail, a living, breathing prison. The captured were subjugated to various tortures each day, seemingly for no other purpose than the jail's perverse satisfaction. Time has passed. The city is now a wasteland, and communication with anyone on the surface has long been cut off. Our main hero and heroine, Jack and Alice, are just two of the many prisoners in the jail. Despite the daily torture, the two haven't succumbed to despair, relying on their companionship to maintain stability. One day, the prisoners are returned to their cells early after the day's torture, which involved licking the walls for hours. It's such an odd form of torture, and its bizarreness and the uncertainty of its purpose makes it all the more unnerving. Just then, chaos breaks out in the jail. A young girl in a hood and armed with a large weapon enters and begins freeing the prisoners from their cells. The hooded girl introduces herself as Red Riding Hood and informs Alice that they are Blood Maidens, which is evident from their pink eyes upon contact with merchant blood. Blood Maidens possess extraordinary abilities that enable them to combat merchants, giving humanity a fighting chance against their captors. However, this ability has a significant drawback. If a Blood Maiden becomes overexposed to tainted blood, she risks entering a state called Blood Skelter, in which she will go berserk and start destroying everything and everyone. Thankfully, it's revealed that Jack's blood is quite special. Not only is it capable of counteracting the corruption, but it can also reverse a maiden's blood skelter, something initially thought impossible. Jack and Alice are brought to the liberated city, the base of operations for the resistance force, and the closest thing to a safe haven for the prisoners who have managed to escape. With multiple blood maidens, and no longer needing to fear losing them to blood skelter thanks to Jack's blood, the liberated district can now commence a proper counterattack against the merchants, aiming to ascend to the very top of the jail, where humanity hopes they'll be able to return to the surface. The story of Mary Skelter is great, thanks to its fascinating setting and strong cast of characters. The game presents plenty of mysteries for the player to uncover, such as the true nature of the merchants in the living prison, and it provides hints and answers at regular intervals, while retaining a few more up its sleeve to motivate the player forward. It's not perfect, as there's a late game twist that is telegraphed a bit too hard, and the ending itself feels somewhat unsatisfying, serving more as a lead-up to its sequel, Mary Skelter Finale, rather than offering a proper resolution. Nevertheless, the game's strong world-building, novel concepts, and excellent cast of characters are more than satisfying enough to make the journey worthwhile, even with the lackluster conclusion. Despite its incredibly dark subject matter, Mary Skelter doesn't lean too far toward the side of edgy, most of the time anyway. Mary Skelter incorporates plenty of moments of levity, allowing the cast to interact and spend time together during some lighthearted scenes. These moments are balanced nicely with the darker elements, so not everything is purely doom and gloom. When out on the field, the cast treats everything with the appropriate seriousness, saving the jokes and lighter moments for when the team is safely back at their home base. There are a few groan-inducing lines here and there, along with some awkward moments of fan service shoehorned in for those looking for that, but it's hardly enough to detract from the rest of the writing. The beating heart of Mary Skelter's story is in its strong cast of characters. Our protagonist, Jack, is really the only person who is a bit lacking. He does avoid being a blank slate, thankfully possessing a distinct personality. However, what's there just isn't especially interesting. In contrast, the NPCs that comprise the liberated district do a great job enriching the world, and I relish the opportunity to learn more about their history in the jail. Naturally, the true stars of the show are the Blood Maidens. They're a diverse cast of personalities inspired by fairy tales, such as Snow White, Thumbelina, and Cinderella. Although featuring female cast members as heroines from fairy tales could easily turn cliché and uninspired, Mary Skelter gracefully avoids this pitfall. The Blood Maidens' personalities are unrelated to their respective fairy tales, ensuring that the girls are distinct characters rather than something derivative. Instead, the fairy tale inspiration serves as a quirk for each character, referred to as a blood libido. Blood libidos are compulsions that affect the girls in various ways. Some are minor and don't influence the story much, like Cinderella's compulsion to clean, while others are more extreme, such as the brave and spunky Red Riding Hood breaking down and becoming a panic-stricken mess when she is without her hood. The fairy tale also has interesting influences on the characters' designs, such as Alice's massacre mode having pink energy that resembles bunny ears, in homage to the White Rabbit, while Red Riding Hood takes on beast-like qualities akin to the Big Bad Wolf when going berserk in Blood Skelter mode. The fairy tale influence is used to tastefully inform us about aspects of their character without becoming reliant on it, giving a unique cast of characters that I loved learning more about, spending time with, and battling alongside. If you hope to get even more out of your time with the Blood Maidens, you can give gifts and furniture to improve your relationship with each girl, as well as decorate their rooms. As your relationship strengthens, you'll unlock bonus scenes that will provide more insight into their personalities and development. There are no losers in this group, offering a likable cast all around. Mary Skelter Nightmares is a first-person dungeon crawler, featuring several floors the player must ascend, while exploring the twisted hallways and utilizing the Blood Maiden's unique abilities to solve puzzles. Your objective in each dungeon is to locate that area's core, which will trigger a boss fight. The concept of a living prison is also quite innovative, making each dungeon feel more like a unique environment, rather than just another locale to traverse. You're quite literally delving deeper into the belly of the beast with each step you take, leaving you uncertain about what may be lurking around each corner. Each of the dungeons has wildly different themes as well, being bizarre mashups of modern-day elements and fairy tales. This creates great visual variety while further enhancing the creepy and unnatural atmosphere. Combat in Mary Skelter features a surprising level of complexity. Each character has multiple jobs they can gradually switch between as they level up. Each job offers a distinct spread of stats and skills to purchase. Once they've been bought, skills can be equipped regardless of which job the Blood Maiden is currently using, allowing for an impressive amount of freedom to customize each party member as you see fit. Alice starts as a perfectly good physical attacker, but I found she performs best as a tank to absorb physical damage for the rest of the party. So I focused her build on defense and drawing enemy attacks. There are plenty of combinations that encourage player expression and allow you to form your party however you wish. The way one player may focus their party can differ significantly from another's, providing an incentive to replay the game with a different composition. A cute detail is that each job has a unique outfit for each character, which is even reflected in story cutscenes. I wish there was a way to equip a specific outfit without needing to switch that job. Sometimes I liked the way the character looked, but the job stats didn't fit the build I was going for, so I had to switch to something I liked the look of less. It's a minor point, barely even a nitpick, but it would have been nice to choose how the character looks once the outfit has been unlocked. In battle, defeating enemies with elemental weaknesses, or dealing damage that exceeds their current HP will spill blood, which will gradually fill each character's blood splatter, located beneath their health and skill points. Once the blood splatter is full, the character will enter Massacre mode for several turns. Massacre mode has the potential to significantly turn the tide of battle by greatly enhancing the Blood Maiden's stats and allowing the use of Massacre skills, powerful abilities with an incredibly low SP cost. However, sometimes the blood splatters may be tainted, causing the meter to gradually darken. If the meter darkens to a certain extent by the time it's full, the Blood Maiden will instead enter Blood Skelter. Blood Skelter boosts the Maiden's stats even higher than Massacre, but you'll lose control over them, and they will randomly attack both friend and foe alike. While hitting an enemy in Blood Skelter is a stroke of luck that can deal devastating damage, battles with a girl in Blood Skelter can go to shit in an instant, and it's better to avoid it at all costs. Fortunately, there are two ways to prevent this. First, if a character has 3 or more blood splatters, another character can lick the blood off them. Yeah, by giving a big ol' lick, you'll remove that maiden's current blood splatters in exchange for a unique effect, such as restoring SP or raising defense against magic. Our second method comes from Jack. Though Jack himself isn't a fighter, he appears in battle with a handful of unique options that shouldn't be overlooked. For starters, he's the only character that can use items, making him critical for healing when your party is running low on healing skills. You can also have Jack guard a Blood Maiden to take a hit for them, but this is only recommended for desperate situations. If Jack is hit, he'll be stunned and unable to act for several turns, which can be disastrous. Finally, Jack has a handy item called the Mary Gun, which uses his blood for a variety of unique effects, such as removing corruption from blood splatters, undoing Blood Skelter, and several others unlocked as you progress. However, the Mary Gun will use a portion of Jack's blood, as indicated by this meter. The lower the meter gets, the higher the chance that Jack will pass out after using the Mary Gun, making him unavailable for several turns. Thankfully, Jack can recharge his blood during his turn. Players will need to carefully balance using Jack's abilities while also ensuring he keeps his blood meter up, or else they may not be able to use him during a critical moment in battle. The final element of combat is the jail itself. By fighting and exploring the dungeon, the jail's 3 desire gauges will fill. Once one of them is full, a roulette wheel will activate, earning the player a variety of bonuses. These effects are exclusively beneficial, and can range from resources and significant healing for your party to major boosts in your party's stats during battle. The bonuses that appear on the wheel are random, so it's best not to hedge your bets too heavily on the roulette, but they can provide a welcome boost to help turn the tide of battle. Mary Skelter's combat and its numerous systems are a blast to engage with. The blood splatter and Jack-specific abilities require the player to think several moves ahead, keeping them on their toes at all times, and preventing them from just mashing the A button to get through fights like in other dungeon crawlers. The number of unique mechanics may be a bit overwhelming for newcomers. There are several other mechanics that haven't been discussed yet, such as blood de-evolution, blood purge, and equipment upgrades. The game is packed with various systems, arguably too many. While this adds plenty of depth for players to explore, it can also introduce too much at once before they become properly situated, making it feel bloated. For me, the game's base difficulty is comfortable. However, this will naturally vary based on how you build your party. Those well acquainted with dungeon RPGs might consider starting on hard difficulty, as it's my understanding that many find Mary Skelter leans towards the easier side. But if you're seeking a challenge, just wait until you encounter a nightmare. Nightmares are large, unkillable enemies that roam around each dungeon. When a nightmare approaches, the screen darkens and a chase begins. To end a chase, the player must run far enough away from the nightmare to exit its range. If you're playing on normal difficulty or higher, your map will be removed during a chase, forcing the player to rely on their memory or luck to navigate the dungeon and escape. If you mistakenly run into a dead end, you'll have no choice but to fight, which is a task better off avoided. Nightmares can be momentarily stunned if you deal enough damage to them, giving you a chance to slip past them, but they hit incredibly hard and can take down an unprepared party in an instant. Once you find and destroy the dungeon's core, the nightmare will finally weaken, allowing you to face it for real. You'll break apart the various elements that compose the nightmare, revealing its even more grotesque form beneath, before finally delivering the finishing blow. Defeating a nightmare brings a great sense of satisfaction. It transforms the player from hunted to hunter, and after the nightmare has fallen, you can explore that area without fear of further chases. Overall, the nightmares add an interesting element to dungeon crawling, where players can be ambushed at any time, momentarily making Mary Skelter feel like a horror game. However, there are times where they start to become flat-out nuisances. Nightmare spawn rates are low but random, carrying the risk of appearing too frequently if you're unlucky. In these situations, the tension begins to wear off, and the nightmares instead become constant interruptions to your progress. Worse, the structure of some dungeons does not mesh well with the nightmare system, particularly the waterside and graveyard. These dungeons consist mainly of narrow hallways and long stretches between dead ends. Occasionally, a nightmare will spawn and instantly corner you, providing no chance to escape. The graveyard is when it's at its worst. The graveyard is the second dungeon in the game, and by this point, players will have only just gotten a full party. You won't yet be able to fully tweak the party to your liking, and the nightmare has too much health to reliably stun before it tears you a second mouth. For the first half of this dungeon, if the nightmare spawned while I happened upon a dead end, it was a guaranteed game over. It's a very frustrating hurdle, especially since there's no control over when a nightmare appears. Additionally, nightmares attack in real time, unlike everything else in game which functions on a turn order. This means even if you're not selecting anything on your turn, the nightmare will jump forward in the turn order and attack. This was likely done to give the nightmares an otherworldly element, as if these creatures are so beyond the natural order of things that they aren't even confined to the game's combat system. Cool idea. In practice, they bring down nightmare battles considerably. Instead of carefully planning each turn, it encourages racing to get as many hits in as possible, because stopping to think for more than a few seconds will result in the nightmare attacking every other turn. It downplays the strategic aspects of its combat, diminishing what could have been the best fights in the game, which is a significant letdown. Presentation-wise, you can see for yourself that Mary Skelter has a great art style. Character portraits look fantastic, and even feature animated breathing and blinking to give an extra sense of life. As Mary Skelter debuted on the Vita, the 3D elements may appear a bit outdated to those playing the console or PC versions. What really surprised me was the soundtrack. It's phenomenal. The dungeon themes do an especially excellent job of making each location feel warped and disturbing. Meanwhile, the battle themes have some dude going ham on the violin. Wow. Mary Skelter Nightmares was initially released on Vita and PC. However, a remake of Nightmares was included for free with Mary Skelter 2 on PS4 and Switch. I played the Switch version for this video. Both the original and the remake provide similar experiences, but the original has more challenges and larger dungeons. The remake significantly reduced the size of dungeons, while slightly adjusting the story to incorporate more elements from 2, alongside an additional dungeon. Having owned and played both versions, I would recommend the remake, as the original's dungeons were exceedingly long and began to feel tedious, whereas the revised dungeons in the remake felt more appropriate. You'll unlock the remake upon finishing the true ending of Mary Skelter 2, though you can unlock it immediately with free DLC. The developers intended the players to play 2 before playing the remake, and the decision is odd. Without going into spoilers, Mary Skelter 2 acts as a prequel, in the loosest sense of the word, and there's a new post-game dungeon in the remake that will only make sense if you've played 2. However, 2 has new gameplay mechanics that, remake or otherwise, Nightmares doesn't have, meaning the gameplay will feel like a step back when transitioning from 2 to remake. So from a story perspective, it makes sense to play Mary Skelter 2 first, rather than Nightmares, while from a gameplay perspective, it's better to go from Nightmares to 2. Personally, I would recommend starting with Nightmares since it's the first game in the series, but choose the order you think matters most to you. Mary Skelter Nightmares is a phenomenal dungeon crawler. I think it might be my all-time favorite. It has a dark world, and the atmosphere is gripping, with a combat system that is strategic and flexible enough to allow players to craft their party however they see fit. There may be too many different mechanics at play, with the Nightmare system in particular being hit or miss. But once you ease yourself into what Mary Skelter offers, there's a bloody good time to be had. Mary Skelter will take the number 17 spot, moving Bionicle Heroes DS down a peg. Mary Skelter offers a fresh take on the dungeon crawling genre, making for a twisted adventure with a fantastic cast of characters. Despite a few hiccups with the Nightmare system and a slightly lackluster ending, Mary Skelter is easily worth experiencing for fans of dungeon crawlers and JRPGs. And that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, I would really appreciate if you left a like. They do a lot to get more eyes on my videos. Remember to stick to the end to see which game our wheel will select next. In the meantime, thank you all so much for watching. Take care, and may we see each other again when we turn to the next chapter in the Tome of Silver. It downplays the strategic aspects of its combat.